greetings from my country house. We're going to head into the city today, and I'm going to take you to a museum that most Washingtonians never go to, in part because you have to get a background checked and fingerprinted just to get on the base. So join me as we head off to the Navy Museum in Washington, D.C. Since we're talking about the Navy, I'd be remiss not to bring you to this place. This is the Patuxent River here in southern Anne Arundel County, Maryland, just underneath a large bridge, Maryland Route 4. Quite annoying. Now, in the War of 1812, Commodore Barney from Baltimore convinced the U.S. Navy to form the Chesapeake Flotilla, a bunch of gun barges and small vessels that would go around harassing the British who were blockading the Chesapeake Bay. Well, it didn't work out that great. They eventually got pinned into the Patuxent River, and they made their way up to St. Leonard's Creek, which is just a few miles south of here. They managed to have a little scuffle and get out of St. Leonard's Creek, but then they came up to here, up to Wason's Corner, Upper Marlboro, and this is where they ended up having to scuttle the ships. You see, they got wind that the British were going to invade Washington, D.C. As a result, they decided, let's get off the boats and go help in the defense of Washington. So the troops from the Chesapeake Flotilla were part of the Battle of Bladensburg, and they helped defend Washington, D.C. against the British attack. The Chesapeake Flotilla was made up of a bunch of small barges, rowboats, 2 small gunships, and then the Uss Scorpion, which was a small vessel that they used to sail around on the Chesapeake. They brought all the ships up the Patuxent River to this point, and that's where they decided to scuttle the vessels. And they were basically lost in time and mud over the ages, until recently. You see, a few years ago, the Scorpion was rediscovered. Marine archaeologists looking for the vessels in the Patuxent stood up one day and said, I'm not actually standing on mud. I'm standing on the deck of a ship that's in the mud. The USS Scorpion was rediscovered here in Jugs Bay on the Patuxent River, just about 10 miles away from Andrews Air Force Base. So guys, this is one of 4 military bases in Washington, D.C., and this is the only one that's kind of open to the general public, I think. So we're going to try to get on this, the United States Navy Yard, Washington, D.C., and take a look inside. Let's go in. USS Constitution, black and gray. Oh wow, yeah, this is it. This model was on display in the Oval Office when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. 18 years later, it was in the office of Press Secretary James Brady. And after that, this model was sent back to the Navy and has not been in the White House ever since. So I guess people think it's cursed. More models. Oh, this one's a cutaway. Check this out. This is a half model. And you can see like the stores and the ropes and the supplies. And there's all the ballast down at the bottom, giant rocks. And then the captain's quarters and the officers in the dining room. And then the gun deck filled with cannonballs. Let's see what they got. So this used to have like the big guns in here. This used to be like a foundry. They got these big cranes where they used to move the guns around. This is on the construction of old Ironsides. There's the Constitution, which is actually was here in 1812. In 1812, that ship came down to Washington to be fitted out for the War of 1812. So now it's in Boston, of course, but at one time it was here at the Navy Yard. What do we have over here? Yeah, there it is. You guys have seen this from your high school Civil War textbooks. So here you see the Monitor and the Merrimack. Yeah, so now they call it this. I learned it as Monitor and Merrimack, but it's CSS Virginia. And this was the Ironside ship that they built for the Confederate States. And then, of course, the North had the Monitor. And the Monitor and the Merrimack, or the Monitor and the CSS Virginia, had a battle in the Battle of Hampton Roads. The Virginia withdrew, and the Monitor maintained the blockade. But then the Monitor sailed back to Washington for repairs, and the Monitor was repaired in Washington, D.C. Here's the ship's bell of the Merrimack. This looks like a torpedo. This is one of the old, this is a Civil War mine. They called them torpedoes back then, but this was the mines that they placed. You know, the dam the torpedoes full speed ahead? It was one of these things, not a torpedo like you're used to seeing. This is an exhibit on camouflage, when they used that really weird World War I camouflage. Yeah, to try to confuse people. And the dazzle camouflage, that was what it was called, dazzle. To try to confuse submarines so they couldn't figure out how fast the ship was going. USS Sampson. Got lots of models here. This looks like a minesweeper over there. It is a minesweeper. These were in World War II as well. There is a railway gun, guys. And guess what? We're gonna see this outside. There is a railway gun outside that we can go take a look at. But then in World War I, they used to have trains that would pull these things to the front, and they would launch massive shells into the enemy. Cool. All right, let's get into World War II. War in the Pacific, war in the Atlantic. Let's start with the Pacific, yeah? The Arizona, USS Arizona, that's a model. This letter is requested to send to the Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. forces in the Philippines. So, this was a message that was dropped to General Wainwright. This was from the Japanese. So the Japanese dropped this for General Wainwright to surrender. Ooh. So that's the battle track. This was the map at the Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific in Pearl Harbor. This was the map he was using. And you can see drawings of the submarine patrols, task force, the attacks. So the planes that took part. There we go. Yeah, F4U Corsair. They even have this. Look at this model, guys. Look at this, how big this gigantic aircraft carrier model. And this is just an escort carrier. Yeah, this isn't even a real big carrier, I don't think. Oh, this is the Ranger, USS Ranger. So I guess that was an attack carrier. Didn't Ranger, oh, there was another Ranger, I think. Lasted many, many years. I just noticed that this is a 5-inch gun, twin-mounted 5-inch gun. God, just imagine how big, like the 16-inch gun turrets were. If this is just a twin 5, then there's a couple of these per battleship. So like, look here guys, remember that 5-inch gun I showed you? There's a 5-inch gun, there's a 5-inch gun, there's a 5-inch gun, 5 and 5. All right, so there's what? 5 of those on each side of the ship, so there were 10 of those. And just so you know, that 5-inch gun turret is like the thing that we saw just up there, yeah? That's the 5-inch gun turret. And there's like 10 of them on the ship. These things were beasts. Some of the moon guys. I think I mentioned when I was in Annapolis, the Naval Academy is like one of the top universities for astronauts. If you want to be an astronaut, you go to Navy. So this part of the exhibit is still under renovation. Still got some other ships back here. Sections, yeah? Still under development. Whoa, look at that. That's the Alvin. That was one of the first deep sea submersibles, the Alvin. And that's the Tree Stay. I've heard that one before. Scuba diver can go 100 feet. Washington Monument is 500. Seawolf class goes 1,600. Great Wall is 3,900 feet. The Alvin, 14,000 feet. And the Trieste, 11,000 meters, 36,000 feet underwater. Boy, that thing must be a tank. It's a very industrial campus. There is a small parade ground. I don't think they could actually land a helicopter or anything, but there is a small field. The Cold War Museum, I guess, is right over here under this white awning. Try this door. Cold War Gallery. Whoa. That's a nuke. This is much bigger than when I was last here. Covert Ops of the Cold War. Cool. These are electronic warfare aircraft models and sub-hunters, P-8s, P-3s. Wow, look at all these models. Cold War aircraft, 1946, 1991. Wow, these are some beautiful models. Whoa, look at this carrier. Jeez. The Forrestal. We've got F4s and E2s and A7s and intruders. It's basically Vietnam era. This is a landing craft over here from Korean War. Was this thing at Incheon? I guess this is a piece of the rock from Incheon. Yeah, Incheon seawall. So that's part of the seawall of Incheon, where the landing craft hit the beaches. Armed Troop Carrier Control Boat. This is all the Vietnam era riverine craft. Assault Patrol Boat, PBR. The patrol boat, that's Apocalypse Now. That's a swift boat. There's a real swift boat just outside. And are these what, the Arvin? These are the South Vietnamese vessels. So, cockpit. Warships. It's an exhibit on POWs. Is this the Hanoi Hilton? This is when the POWs were released.
A few days later in California, following brief stops in the Philippines and Hawaii, the freedmen embraced loved ones they had not seen in years.
551 pilots were lost in the Vietnam War. This table is a missing man table. It is laid out to remember a missing soldier, an MIA. Let's go to the yard now, where all the big stuff is. 1861. These cannons are from 1861. But let's go over here. There's some big guns over here. And there is the giant railway gun. Just saw a model of this inside, but here is the actual railway gun out in the park. Navy gun car, a 14-inch 50 caliber Navy gun. And this served in France and maybe Belgium, it looks like. But this gun barrel was made here at the Navy Yard, back when the Navy Yard was the Bureau of Ordnance's main foundry. And it used to lob shells this size. Oh, no, this is an 18-inch shell. This is a Japanese 18-inch shell. God, this must have been from like the Yamato or something. What do we have over here? Steel. Armor plating. 16-inch armor plate from the South Dakota. So this is how thick the armor is on a warship, like the South Dakota. And this is a propeller this is a battleship propeller from the Philadelphia Navy Shipyard. This was also from the South Dakota. This thing is pretty tall, guys. This is like 14 feet, maybe. Taller than that, 15 feet. Some anchors. Oh, wow, look at the armor when it took a hit. Kaboom. This is a 26-inch armor plate used on the Japanese Yamato-class battleships. It was found at the end of World War II, and then it was sent to Dahlgren, where they sent 16-inch armor-piercing shells into the side of the plate to see the effect of a 16-inch armor-plated or armor-piercing shell. So, guys, that's what happens when you got a 16-inch armor-piercing shell and you're up against 26-inch armor. You get a really big hole. More cannons. So this is where diplomats used to arrive. Diplomats used to arrive here. The unknown soldier from World War I, Charles Lindbergh, other foreign diplomats used to arrive at the Navy Yard and enter Washington, D.C. These trees are in commemoration of the first Japanese diplomat to the United States in 1880. He arrived at the Navy Yard back in the days before airplanes. So these are 16-inch projectiles. This is a big gun. It is actually rifled, kind of. See that? Can you see that? 16-inch 50 caliber Mark II. This was developed in World War I, but they were scrapped under the Treaty of 1922. So this gun never actually saw service. Some more armor plating with big holes in it. Now the Navy is planning a multi-million-dollar renovation of this museum, the Cold War Gallery, and this big parking lot out here. They're going to basically link them all together, build a new structure, bring in some planes and some other big Navy memorabilia, and make this the official main Navy museum for the United States Navy. That should be kind of cool. 5 years from now. At least. So guys, that was the U.S. Navy Museum. I should note this is open to the public, but you have to get an ID check. You have to get checked, background check, and fingerprints, and photographed to come onto the base. That takes about a half hour. Such is life. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Let's go find something to eat. So guys, the Navy base is one of the oldest, well actually it is the oldest Navy shore facility in the United States Navy. Set up in 1799, it has seen a tremendous amount of history over the years. In 1812, when the British invaded, in the War of 1812, when the British invaded Washington, the Navy Yard was burned. The commandant of the Navy Yard said, we're not going to let the British get all the equipment, so they just lit it on fire. John Wilkes Booth's body was brought to the Navy Yard to be identified. Foreign dignitaries used to come here as their first part of arriving in Washington, D.C. Oh God, Charles Lindbergh, the unknown soldier of World War I, they arrived here. The famous speech, Tell It to Norway by FDR, that was done here as well. This base has a tremendous amount of history. Now, as I mentioned, there was quite the security check to go onto the base. I had to hand over identification, I had to be fingerprinted, a background check was conducted, in part because of 9/11, but also in part because of what happened here about 10 years ago. A man with a shotgun and a grudge got into the Navy Yard and killed nearly a dozen people before dying himself. That sort of put an impact on the security of the Navy Yard. So if you want to come here as a tourist, you're welcome, but be ready for some serious background checks. Normally when I come up to Capitol Hill or the Navy Yard, it's Korean taco time. But, well, this weekend I had Korean barbecue, and, well, just take a look at this. Ooh. That's the beef, was it beef tongue? Yeah. crowd of fried chicken today, so burger time again. And echoing through the clouds this morning behind the Washington Monument at the moment is the Park Police Eagle. Where will he come out?
Washington Tower 901, ready to lift and accost to the pre-position of P56 Alpha.
901 approved as requested. Activity 305 Niner.
305 Niner 901, thank you.
He went on in the middle door. We couldn't see him.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes he comes from the Oval Office, but
So that's the middle one, right?
yeah. Decoy 1.
Washington Tower, Blade 1 is airborne, proceeding as brief.
31 Washington Tower to Washington altimeter 3058, proceed as brief.
3058, Blade 1, welcome.
It's right over there. F-16s, Secret Service escort. Well, Air Force escort. So guys, I hope you enjoyed another little trip off the beaten path here in Washington, D.C. I'll continue showing this stuff if you guys still want to see it. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment, share, all that kind of thing. And I will catch you tomorrow because, well, got nothing else to do. Might as well go outside and make a movie. Bye-bye.